So next, we want to welcome forward our esteemed colleague, Saara Kaudeyr, who is an amazing researcher, and she is here to give some preliminary findings from the latest Giving in Numbers survey research. Thank you all for participating. So let's please welcome Saara forward, who's going to share a lot. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. So glad to be here. Thank you, Carrie, for introducing me. You're here yet again. Today, I really get the privilege of sharing with you some fresh insights from the latest Giving a Number survey, as Carrie mentioned, particularly looking at community investments and all that goes into them. Community investment remains one of the strongest vehicles for social impact that many companies have. I know it's still bright and early in our summit lineup, so hopefully this just gives you something to chew on for the next couple of days. And I'm going to be throwing a lot of data at you, but it's going to go really quick, so you won't have time to have your eyes glaze over or anything like that. And then if this isn't enough data for you, tomorrow my colleague Therese is going to be diving into what's happening with employee engagement, so stay tuned. As Carrie said, today I'm going to be sharing predominantly data coming from our most recent Giving a Number survey. Thank you to all who participated and put in the time and effort to gather data from various teams. We know you all have many priorities, so we appreciate you contributing to our research every year. You help us maintain the longest standing data set on corporate societal investments, which really helps us take the long view of the evolution of the field, especially as we are celebrating our 25th anniversary as an organization. The over 200 companies who participated this year are some of the world's largest companies with a revenue of $2 billion or more. In 2023, these companies represent almost 16 million employees, almost 10 trillion in revenue, and $1 trillion in profit, which has led to almost 5,000 staff dedicated to social impact in some way, 33 million volunteered hours, and $37 billion in total community investments. That's a lot of effort and work, so thank you all for that. And the data you see over the next couple of days is all preliminary, and also just the tip of the iceberg. The full report will be out in October. And I also want to say that it is not too late to participate in Giving in Numbers. If you're interested in accessing our customized benchmarking related to it, please feel free to let any of us know, and we'll get you started. So the median total community investment in 2023 was $22.2 million across all companies that participated in Giving in Numbers. As you can see, there's a consistent correlation between the revenue of the company and the median total community investment. We can also see for those companies that are really leading the pack, that top quartile, $75.3 million in community investments is the threshold. I'm going the wrong way. Oh, you guys are like, what are you talking about? Now you can see what I'm talking about. When we see a similar breakdown by industry or sector, we can see that communications companies typically have higher community investments, fueled by the fact that there are fewer of them, they tend to be larger, and they donate a lot in non-cash. That's, PSAs, ad space, all those kinds of things. Consumer staples follows. And then healthcare cares third. Those aren't particularly interesting. That's kind of been the case for several years now. But what is interesting is that there's the gap between those high community investment industries and all of the rest has started to close, both because other industries like materials and technology have increased, but also because communications and healthcare have actually declined a little bit. Now we can look at how community investments have shifted over the last couple of years. When looking at a matched set of companies who participated in Giving in Numbers all of the last 3 years, it shows that median total community investment has actually increased, but only by about 3% since 2021, which is not the fastest growth rate. But it has actually increased 7% since last year, which is certainly worth acknowledging. These changes, of course, account for inflation, so the actual budget's likely increased by more than 3%. But this shows kind of a steady state that many companies are falling into. 2021 and 2022 comprise a lot of scrambling and readjusting, and now programs, I think, are starting to find their footing, and that's what I'm hearing in a lot of my conversations with you all. In addition, the top quartile for total community investments has decreased 6% since 2021, which is kind of indicating that gaps are kind of are shrinking instead of widening, and kind of creating the normalization of budgets. If we look at the same view over the last few years, but break it down by the composite parts of TCI, direct cash, foundation cash, non-cash, on average in 2023, the breakdown was about 45% direct cash, 35% foundation cash, and 20% non-cash, which is not a big change from previous years. However, we can see that the median of each of these has changed a little bit in this match set. While they are all up in comparison to 3 years ago, and while non-cash is not the most popular method of investment, it has increased the most with a 50% increase from 2021 in median total community investment. This is because while there are always some companies that are increasing or decreasing their non-cash, those who increased did so by a much higher amount than those who decreased, indicating the opening or expansion of non-cash in-kind pro bono programs and so on. And what is also interesting is that while foundation cash is up from 2021, it is down 5% from last year, and this can kind of be indicative of the ebb and flow, the cycle of foundations and corporate spending and spend down and all of that. And so last year might have been a big spend down year for a lot of companies. And if we look at community investment in relation to financial performance, we can see that while the larger companies lead in terms of median total community investment, when looked at as a percentage of revenue, the relationship does not remain the same. The median for all companies in 2021 was, in 2023, excuse me, was 0.11%, while companies in the top quartile give at least 0.26%. And we can see on the left in the orange, as the TCI as a percentage of revenue, and the blue on the right as total cash, so just the direct cash and the foundation cash as a percentage of revenue, which can be helpful in seeing how the inclusion of non-cash can affect this metric. And companies in that realm of 15 to 25 billion are the highest in both. Indicating a parity between their cash and their non-cash, while those with over that amount consistently have like a larger difference between the two. And those companies with over $100 billion revenue also have the lowest across the lowest as a percentage of revenue across the board, indicating that while they may be investing the most in terms of like actual dollars, they actually would have to give more to be in line with their smaller peers. If we look at the same graph as the last slide, excuse me, except looking at it as a percentage of pre-tax profit instead of revenue, the median for all companies for TCI as a percentage of pre-tax profit in 2023 was 0.93%, with a top quartile of 2.2%, and the median is again below the 1% standard that the industry strives toward and that we actually achieved, a couple of years ago. There is more alignment across company size in terms of cash community investment as a percentage of pre-tax profit, but the non-cash actually gives the larger companies a leading edge in terms of that, looking at community investments as a percentage of pre-tax profit. And then looking back to 2021, there has been an increase in TCI as a percentage of financial performance, median TCI as a percentage of revenue increased 9%, though it's worth noting that it was only by 0.01 percentage points. And TCI as a percentage of pre-tax profit increased by a third, increasing from 0.67% to 0.89% in this match set. Because TCI has not had such large increases, this can be an indication that a lot of the revenues and profits that we were seeing in 2021 have slowed down significantly since then. So any kind of increases in TCI budgets that we see as a result can be kind of seen as a win. And now we'll look at where TCI is going specifically. A CECP pulse survey from December of last year asked about how much companies emphasize local communities in their community investment budgets, and we found that 70% of companies give more than 40% of their budget locally. In giving in numbers, we found that 73% of companies gave internationally as well. And when you consider the companies in this community, in this room, this makes sense because for many of you, global is local. Your workforces and operations are spread around the world, and so their local community is your local community. If we look at giving you numbers data again, the program areas of total community investment have remained largely the same in terms of percentage allocation, how big of a slice of pie they are. Health and social services remains the leader, followed by community and economic development and K through 12, which have all increased in their allocations, as has environment. Even though it's a small sliver, that 5% used to be like 3%, so it's increasing for sure. Disaster relief has gone down a bit, but what has decreased significantly is that other category, indicating that there's like a little bit less swirl going on, a little bit more alignment of how programs align with you, whatever your pillars are, your corporate purpose. And what's also interesting is that when you look at the dollars of median TCI and dollars on the right side, even though culture and arts is not a supremely popular program in that left chart, it has a higher median TCI than expected, indicating that companies that do give to culture and arts programs do so generously and prioritize that as part of their giving strategy. I also want to share that, I talked about how environment has gone up a little bit since last year, and that's true for climate change mitigation specifically. We asked that question again this year, and the median amount given actually doubled between the last 2 years, indicating the increasing emphasis of the climate crisis and the imperative to act. It can also be indicative of further alignment between sustainability and the E and ESG strategies and the community investment work, as more and more companies kind of put all of that together under one umbrella and report it as such. And then we can also see the emphasis in environment in self-identified priority focus areas. We can see here that 10% of companies list environment as their #1 priority focus area. And this is what companies are selecting for themselves. And when companies are asked to categorize their top strategic programs, K through 12 is the #1 priority, followed by health and social services and community and economic development. So there is still that same top 3 in terms of program area allocation, but in a different order. And we can also see that categories like environment and disaster relief are not popular first priorities, but are popular as secondary or tertiary or quaternary focus areas. So they're kind of always simmering in the background. And then finally, I wanted to talk about full-time equivalents, or FTEs. The teams are doing most of the work we've discussed today. A poll survey in October of last year asked about changes in team size as it relates to downsizing. And we asked how many companies are experiencing that. 42% of respondents said that they had, including their own community investment teams. But what we're seeing here in this giving in numbers data is that thankfully that didn't cause a huge decline, whether in foundations or community affairs or comms and marketing related to social impact. There was a median of 9 FTEs doing the work at all of the companies that reported to giving in numbers. The median of a matched set of companies, which are typically larger, typically more consistently participate in giving in numbers year over year, increased that they had an initial increase in 2022, and that has kind of held steady since then. So a lot of the swirling around that was happening, all that reshuffling that was happening a few years ago has started to slow down. Regardless of the team size or the size of the community investment budget, there are clearly people, including many of you, putting in the work day in and day out to make sure that your programs are having the highest possible impact that they can and aligning with the corporate purpose of your company. So I want to thank you so much for your time. Please keep an eye out for the full Giving in Numbers report in October, and I'm going to turn it back over to Carrie.